네, 마이크도 켜놨고요. 얘도 랩도 됐고요.
Okay. Second session of the morning is going to start with Dr. Usukhjargal's presentation of population dynamics. So we reintroduced Przeworski's horses in Costa National Park. Dr. Usukhjargal has worked as a wildlife biologist and Przeworski's horse biologist in Costa National Park for more than 20 years. He recently joined the National University of Mongolia. He works with us now in the Department of Biology. So he's going to talk about all about Przeworski's horses and stay close to him during the evening excursion to see these animals. So if you have questions, you can ask him. So, Dr. Usukhjargal.
Good afternoon. First of all, I already mentioned it. Thank you very much for coming to Mongolia and even our national park. And recent minutes, I'm going to talk about how this population fluctuates on space and time. And I have only three contents. Where is the Mongolia? Who is this horse? And what is the result of the reproduction? This is our Mother Earth, who was established in 4.54 billion years ago. This is Mongolia, 19th largest country in the world, 3.5 million inhabitants, most sparse population. We have 1,500 square kilometers land. 3.5 million Mongolians, we are living with 56 million livestock. Thousands of the years, we are nomadic. Nomadic means we are not master of the nature, we are part of the nature. That's why in Mongolian, nature conservation is connected with our survival. Who is this horse? Actually, this is one species of wildlife. Nowadays, there are only 7 species of horse family species are surviving. 3 of them zebras, which live in African deserts. 3 of them asses, which lives in Asian, African deserts. And only 1 real wild horse. That's why we're trying to save this species. And even this is not only the last one, even it was extinct in the wild. And we brought them from the European zoos and nature reserves and released them back to the nature. Actually, he is Przeworski, but he is not Russian. He is a Polish man who worked in the Russian army. He discovered this horse from the Mongolian Gobi. He finds this is cut from the Mongolian Gobi in 1878. Polyakov, museum curator, studied this skull and concluded this is the really new species of the wild horse and gave the Przeworski's name. That's why common name is the Przeworski, but Mongolians never call it the Przeworski's horse. We call it Tech. Tech means the worship or holy horse. Because we believe these horses are ancestors of our domestic horse. We believe. And after the Western scientists believe, they captured 88 foals from the Mongolian Gobi since 1898 until 1903. They transport those horses to Europe, but only 53 of them shipped to the European countries. Other very bad thing is only 13 of them produced their foals. Nowadays, there are 40 countries, over 140 zoos and nature reserve has 2,500 horses. All those horses originate from only 13. It means we had big issue about the genetic diversity, genetic pool, inbreeding coefficient. And last, only single stallion had seen in 1968. Since then, Mongolian German, Mongolian Russian, Mongolian Soviet, Mongolian Hungarian biological joint expeditions looking for any traces of the wild horses. They never ever seen again any single individual. It's completely extinct. And now we have two bad news. One, captive population has a very big genetic problem. Second, wild population extinct. We have only one way to save this horse. This is reproduction. Since 1970s, we studied all over the world wild horses, trying to find genetically best stallions and best females. Whenever we find them, we brought them, collected to the boundary of the Netherlands and German, breed them, they produce the best foals, the best of the best, transported to the hospital. That's how this project starts. We thought this starts about 1992, but actually it starts about 1972, long time ago. And these are first 16 horses landed in our national park 5th of June 1992. Exactly that day, the World Summit, the United Nations General Assembly meeting in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. On that day, Minister of the Natural Environment Mongolia, Mr. Usukhjargal, promised within 30 years, Mongolia will protect 30% of the entire territory of the Mongolia. These 2 days, exactly, these two things happened exactly the same day. Why did I choose Susta here? Because good amount of the pasture. This is the only project which ongoing in mountain steppe. Although good amount of the water, these are very important for the reproduction. And now, since 1992, with the 30 years, Mongolian government protected 21% of the entire territory of the Mongolia. It increased 4 times since 1990s. In 1990, we protect only 5%, had 10 protected areas. Today, it's 21% with the 121 protected areas. We still trying. And this is horse reproduction sites. Hosta National Park is located in exactly central part of Mongolia. Size is very small. This is the second smallest national park of Mongolia, 50,000 hectares. Small but effective. These black dots are 6 acclimatization enclosure. We brought 84 horses. 90% of them we released soft release, 2 years, stay in the fence, 2 years later open the gate, release to the nature, soft release. 10% hard release, landing from the plane, release it to the nature. They all died within 3 months. Hard release is so difficult. And now these red dots are 423 horses. Good and bad thing. Good thing, they didn't go out of the fence. Bad thing, they are shrinking to the center. Density is increasing. This is water source. This evening, 5:30 we will be there, trying to see the horses. You see those horses every morning and every evening come down to the water. We have 10 rangers divided by the 5 teams. Every morning and every evening, we check all those horses. How many horses there? How many female pregnant? How many falls? How many of them survive? How many of them eaten by wolves or killed by stallions? We do it every morning and every evening. And this is the map, which we write about how many harems we saw, how many falls, and then we write about, okay, one of the female is gone, one of the fall is dead, and then that causes eaten by wolves. Or if some of the female has the dystocia, we try to save them. And what I'm trying to tell you is, this is the individual level studies. And although our rangers every morning chase all the livestock out of the park, and around 100 different data put into the software, and we send it to the PAZU in the world, and all the Mongolian horses registered in the World Stud Book. And this is the photo album, like a family album. We took their photos every season in every site. That's why we recognize them individual level. We have about 2 terabytes, 1 million photos of each horses. And that's why we're trying to recognize them. Space, 50,000 hectares. Time, 30 years. Source population, 84 horses, 24 stallions, 60 females. Sex ratio is 1 stallion with 3 females. Since 1993, 30 years, there are 1,305 foals born. And I present here 1,389 horse data. Connected with the business horse reproduction, there are lots of positive results documented. First, we really saved the last species of the wild horse. This is the main goal. We're trying to reach the effective population size is 50 and the adult number is 250. This is the population dynamic. We had 400 horses. But of course, we have still harsh winters, but it is okay. It's a natural condition. And this is the adult numbers. We reached 250 horses in 2019. This is the first population reached the world goal. Although this population reached 50 effective population size in 17 years ago. 2002. It means somehow we saved the last species of the wild horse. How they are increasing, they're producing a lot of foals. Young ladies, young males, middle-aged, adult, old females, 50%, 70%, 45%. From 5 to 15 years old, they give birth. This is the really important for the population. This is the foals born since 30 years. Of course, after harsh winters, foal born is down. There's lots of miscarriage, death. 105 foal, almost sex ratio is 1 by 1. Long-term foal survival is almost 60%. Age and sex-dependent survival, we did not find any difference. Their survival rate is same. But foal survival is lower. When they reach yearling, since then, year by year, survival is more than 90%. Only problem is the foal trying to survive the first year. The male reproduction, from age to 12 years old, they produce a lot of foals. Before that, 4 years old, sexually they are ready, but now 400 horse divided by the 45 breeding harems, and except there is 80 bachelors, 5 to 4 ladies. That's why competition is so high. Effective age is shorter, but females, they produce 5 to 15, 20 years old, always over 50%. They are very reproductive and effective. That's why foal survival is less, but male birth is much higher. This is the death cause. Many of them, about 30%, eaten by wolves, bad condition, foal weakness, killed by stallions, injuries, stillborns, and those causes. We have problem, but this is the natural problem. We just ignore them. From the dead horses, the many of them died by in the fault the first year. Since then, the survival is high, and first year, 70% of from 800 horses, many of them falls. The fall death, the main cause is the wolf kill, because more than 50% of the mares give birth exactly on May. On May, wolf families, puppies grew up, and meat request is increasing. And fallen time and wolf kill is really highly correlated. If that fall can pass the May, they are highly chance to survive. From the dead falls, almost 50% eaten by wolves in the first month, the first 2 weeks. Since the first month, they can carry themselves. But interesting thing is, since 2015, wolves are not really eating the horse, because this is the wolf kills decreasing. We are expecting our red deer number is increasing, Mongolian gazelle number is increasing, mammoth numbers are increasing, and this national park is a very good restaurant for the wolves. And wolves are eating the different foods in different days. That's why ecosystem conservation is very important. First 10 years, wolves are eating almost 50%, but recent 10 years, almost 20%. Now, our wolves are not really danger for us. But the important thing is natural extreme events. Only one night, snowstorm, there is a 9 horse dead in only one night. Extreme events are very important. We must register every extreme events. 9 horse, one night death means almost 30% of that spring death. Recently, we have a very big problem. We call behavioral stochasticity. It's similar with the genetic stochasticity, or demographic or environmental stochasticity. It means Przewalski's horses are very conservative. Conservative means, first, they like to stay in only one place. Second, they love only their ladies. They fight for the ladies very often. And stallions died for injuries, ladies died by dystocia, and infanticide is recently increasing. Because competition is increasing, infanticide is increasing. Conservative behavior means they release it from different acclimatization fence. They distribute a lot. That was good. But recently, there is those harems goes to other valleys. Those stallions bring the all females come to the small area. These are all about the Przewalski's horse population dynamic. But since now, I'm going to talk about the protected areas effectiveness. Because we only trying to save the last species of the wild horse. We did not think about other species. Przewalski horse is 350 kilo large mammal eating herbivore. We release 50,000 hectare mountain for them. But since then, second biggest result is resident species of this mountain increased a lot. 1999, we had 7,000 mammoths. Now we have 15,000 mammoths. They increased twice. This is a very good result because in summer we have 6 pack of 40 wolves. They eat a lot of mammoths. Marmot sleep in winter, hibernating. Wolves eat livestock and wildlife. In summer, more than 30-40% they eat marmots. That's why if the marmot number is still high, Brussels horses are no danger. 1992, we had 50 red deer. Today we have 2,000 red deers. It increased 30 times within 30 years. Every 2 weeks, we count all the large mammals, and you can see how they are increasing. And next big result is, not only the resident species are increasing, even migratory species are coming to the park by themselves. We did not call them, we did not bring them. They come to here, fed the protected land, and they decide to stay here. First, Mongolian gazelles come to here in 1995. Since then, they are calling friends and relatives, and our Mongolian gazelles increasing year by year. Nowadays, there are summertime 500 to 700 Mongolian gazelles, wintertime 2,000 Mongolian gazelles wintering in the park. There are 16 Mongolian gazelles, satellite covered. They never go out of the park. They know this is the protection. And this is the number of the Mongolian gazelle. And third, some of Argali wild sheep come to the park in 2003. And also they decided better to stay here. And year by year increasing, now we have about 120 to 150 Argali wild sheep. They are happy to stay here. This is the second biggest result. Third biggest result is we are not only protecting the wildlife in a 50,000 hectare, even we are spreading them. Since 2000, we transported 7 Brussels horseworm hosted to Great Lobby B, and 700 red deers captured from the hosta and translocated to all over the Mongolia. Although 3,000 marmots we capture from the hosta, translocate to other protected areas and support their population. If we calculate their economic cost, it's about more than 3 billion Mongolian Turks. It means you can feel a small 50,000 hectare, 50 staff NGO can help in the Mongolian all the wildlife. And this is about all the nature conservation, species conservation, and biodiversity. Even now there are some more interesting results. Since 1992 until now, there are lots of biologists, ecologists, veterinarians who educate in our national park. They work here and then they joined universities, education organizations, and Mongolian Academy of Sciences. These are a very good result. And next thing is, since 2000, there is a very important nature conservation philosophy is community-based conservation. We cooperated with the local herdsmen. Only one big philosophy: do not increase your livestock. If you just try to keep the number under the capacity. And before the 1990s, Mongolia was Soviet country. It means we don't have any relationship, any capitalist countries like America. American and Mongolian diplomatic relationship starts 1987. Even we did not have any relationship with Netherlands. This is the first project which funded by the Netherlands in Asia, even in Mongolia. Those was Prince and Princess of the Netherlands. Now they are King and Queen of the Netherlands. They come to the park in 2009 and they decide go continue to the fund. And recently, Secretary General of the United Nations, His Excellency Ban Ki-moon, and although head of the International Union of Conservation Nature, Zhang Xinsheng, they visited the park and they think this is one of the very important example of a small non-governmental organization can manage the protected areas management. We never got any money from the Mongolian state budget. Every year there are 30,000 tourists are coming. They paid us about $800,000 and we spent that money to the nature conservation. That's how we survive. And this is tourist camp. Afternoon we will go there. That's interesting. We helped wildlife conservation for 30 years, but our wildlife now helping us. 2020, we had no tourists, no money because of the COVID-19 pandemic. We almost collapsed because no tourists. But suddenly, there's a phone call come from BBC. They say, does it hostile? Yes. Do you have wolf? Yes, we have. How many? 40 wolves. If BBC come to the hostel, can we make the Grey Wolf style? Can we make this movie? Yes, you can. Because those wolves recognize our rangers, they know us, and BBC come to here, makes that movie, and it's paid us about $70,000 for 45 days. Next year they come back again and make the night vision. NHK comes, with the 2 years, we earn $250,000 from the Grey Wolf movie. And although Netflix TV is coming, that's how we survived during the COVID-19. Now our biggest problem is our increasing and over-concentrated livestock. Around the park, there are 170 families living with the 100,000 livestock. From these, many of the domestic horses happy to graze inside. They portion all the horses and livestock to shrink. Even those horses eating the wildlife pasture, although they are robbery or stealing the wildlife minerals. And close to horse, highly chance to increase the hybridization. And that's why we chase out all those livestock every morning and every evening. We broken huge number of the motorcycles and we spend huge amount of the food. And even in winter, we must chase out all the livestock because this pasture only for wildlife, not for livestock. This thing, only one morning, you can see okay, doesn't matter. This is one winter, only one morning, 10 rangers chasing 1,000 domestic horses out of the park. They actually destroying our pasture. That's interesting. We count Mongolian reindeer population, central part of Mongolia. Our administration counted. We count 4,000 reindeer, 3,800 of them exactly in the protected areas. Which means around the protected area there is no more pasture left because it's highly degraded. And nowadays we're trying to spread our horses. We are making artificial water sources, trying to keep some water from that floods and increase the water sources. And this is artificial well we built, and we're still trying year by year. And automatic cameras, those horses and wolves drinking from the well, they are drinking, but not so much. And even red deer, grey wolves are come to the water in midnight. And recently we have built more than 10 or year by year trying to increase the small rock dam, trying to slow the flood water and dissolve to the soil. If you dissolve to the soil, our springs and streams will support by the groundwater. For conclusion, great reduction saved the species from extinction. Now estimated endangered since 2011, not extinct in the wild. Only one species, we think only about the Proboscis horse, species helping other species. Positive result makes the hope for all the protected areas. Because if they cannot observe the effective result, they think protected areas are not necessary. But actually, we must give them hope. This hope is helping to expand the protected areas in Mongolia and all over the world too. People believe in positive results of the protected areas. And Proboscis horse interaction contributes to 30 plus 30 development of goals, thanks to the researchers, rangers, nature conservationists who contribute to the make all this happen possible. And after all, this is not only the national park success, this is the result of the effective nature conservation. That's my presentation. Let's keep up good work. Thank you very much for your attention.